I am so glad that you can't really find a lot of my interviews now because I think they might be really embarrassing.
Were they rehearsed? Did you rehearse a lot of stuff with people and say, okay, they're going to ask you this, so say this?
No. The only time I came across that was to get on the Johnny Carson show, for instance. You had to be interviewed first, and sort of they had to figure out what it was you were going to talk about, and that was different. That was much more structured. But in terms of I did a ton of daytime talk shows and things like that, and I just kind of showed up and said whatever, and it probably wasn't very articulate. And you may find this today.
It was you.
Anyhow, it was so much fun doing all that stuff. But when you say, were you trained to do all that? No, it was by the seat of your pants as far as I was concerned. And I really did. I mean, I had fun doing it, but looking back at some of the things that I said,
yeah, see,
I wish I'd sort of sat down ahead of time and practiced and rehearsed.
They didn't have this back then where everything you say or do is recorded for, ever,
Forever. So you got to be really careful. I literally, not that, again, I have the memory of a gnat. So I have to go over all my stuff and try to anticipate maybe what is going to be asked. And but I've done a lot of podcasts now. So I sort of feel like, for the most part, I can remember most of the things that I'm asked.
You grew up in Edmonton, Alberta.
That's right. Yes.
Did you have the acting and performing bug, from birth? I mean, were you doing things, performing?
It's so funny because I look back now and think about all that stuff, because the obvious answer is no, because I come from a very academic family. Both my brothers were super smart in school, went on to university and did all this stuff. My dad, he was a PhD, taught university in Edmonton. My mother had her master's degree in physiology. So I come from this kind of a background. However, looking back, first of all, the family in general sort of animated. I went to one of my dad's lectures one time and it just cracked me up because he was on stage. I mean, he was one of the favorite professors because he was so animated and he made the lectures really, really interesting. He wasn't one of these guys who just sort of stood up there and remember overhead projectors?
Sure.
I remember the one lecture that I went to, he was describing the difference between an animal with a beak and an animal with lips. And he literally stuck his head under the overhead projector and was with his lips sort of trying to describe the difference. I don't know. It's hard to sort of get into the details about exactly what he was saying. But I was like, I get it. My mother, God bless her, she put me in ballet because I had the perfect ballet body. I hated it because it was at 7 years old, it was so regimented and it was French, and I was just ugh. Did that for a few years, and the teachers really tried to encourage me to continue on because I really did have the perfect ballet body and this foot that had this huge arch and everything, but I didn't like it. So when I was about 13 or 14, she literally tricked me into going to a jazz class. And there I fought it. I was like, there's no way I'm going back to dance. I hate dance, blah, blah, blah. And she said, do one class. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. And I did this class. And first of all, it was no ballet class. I mean, the teacher had Earth, Wind and Fire, just really funky stuff, and it was so free and fun. I kind of in the class, I kind of put myself in the very back of the class, and I was like, this is my one class and I'm just going to hide myself back here. But I picked it up really quickly, and the teacher noticed that. So she had me come to the front of the class so that everybody else could see me. And as it turned out, I loved it and I really excelled at it. And thanks to my mother, who just never let it go, I took dance very, very seriously. And I remember the first time I performed professionally on stage with the dance company that I ended up being in at 16. It was, you hear actors talk about this and other performers or other artists, it was life altering. I mean, I literally came home. It changed my life. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do, this performing on stage, I guess I just like lots of attention was it. And when I graduated from high school, I went to London to train as a dancer at this place called London Studio Center. And there they also offered acting class and every kind of dance, singing, dialects, every sort of performing arts outlet you can imagine there was a class for. So, and also, in high school and things, and junior high, I took acting class, and it just fit me, standing in front of a bunch of people, being crazy. And I'm still like that today. I'm just like over the top, kind of like all the time.
We're going to talk hopefully a little bit about those iconic films that you're in, but I want to hear a little bit about The Apple.
Okay. Have you seen The Apple?
Yeah, I have. And it's a very complicated film.
Well, it's very busy. Yeah. It's complicated in that there's not a clear story arc, perhaps. It's a little disjointed. But yeah, that was the first feature film that I did, the first professional acting job that I did, which also was life altering, as it turns out, because I decided after that to see what would happen with the acting thing.
As a single mom, I want to make sure my kids have healthy teeth. Going to the dentist can be expensive. Just a simple cleaning can cost over $100. Then I found TDA, and for about $1 a day, Total Dental Administrators covers my family on over 200 dental procedures. Whether you're an individual, a family, self-employed, or retired, your acceptance is guaranteed for one of these policies. Call or click for your free information kit and see how affordable dental health can be.
You have had the most wonderful career in working with some of the most talented people in the world. Yes. I mean, you had in Nighthawks, you did a little scene there, but you were surrounded by some of the great actors of that day in that show.
And that one little scene that I did, we shot that in London, and I was cast in London, and I worked opposite Rutger Hauer, who scared the crap out of me. He stayed in character. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie, but he plays a really bad guy. And oh man, he scared me so much because he just reeked evil, And of course, that's his brilliance. He was a brilliant actor. That was a wonderful experience. And wasn't the second thing after I did The Apple. I went home to Edmonton and actually did a little movie, a ski movie that was supposed to be a comedy called Powderheads. At that time, also Powderheads.
I remember.
You too.
Nobody survived that film but you.
Right. Oh boy. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. But it was fun. And ski movies at that time were very popular, like sort of more of a documentary style where, they were doing like filming incredible trick skiers and things like that, or in wild, crazy places. So it was kind of a takeoff of that kind of genre, I guess, but in a comedy, which was semi-successful.
Let's chat a little bit about these movies that, I mean, the world fell in love with you. Night of the Comet in '84 and Last Starfighter. Both of those films were iconic, and they're cult now. They're considered cult classics. The Last Starfighter was a brilliant script, and Lance Guest was amazing in that. I mean, you have such a Barbara Bosun, you have such an amazing cast in that.
Robert Preston, Dan O'Herlihy. I mean, that was Robert Preston's last movie. I'm so grateful to be a part of this movie that he was in, to be associated with him on this level. It's just.
There has been talk of a sequel or remake called Starfighter. Has anybody approached you on it?
Mm-hmm. Oh. Well, yes. Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I just got back from Los Angeles a few weeks ago, and Lance and I are still very good friends. And he said, we've been hearing all this stuff about the sequel, and Lance is more in touch with like Nick Castle and even Jonathan Betchwell, who wrote it. And he said, let's set up a meeting with Jonathan and find out what's going on with it. So we did. We had this whole plan to have breakfast with John. And that morning he called Lance and he said, my partner has COVID and I don't know if I was exposed, if I have it. So I'm going to have to cancel breakfast. And I was leaving like the next day. In fact, I'd stayed an extra day just for this meeting because we wanted to talk about this possible sequel. And but what he did was he sent us kind of a sizzle reel, of what it might look like. And it's basically Lance and I are parents to these kids that discover his history and are sort of introduced to the whole thing, the whole epic. I won't say any more than that, but it takes us to the next generation. And but what's so wonderful about it is I really think the integrity of the movie is going to stay in place because John is still involved with it. All the original people are still like very involved.
The other one, of course, is Night of the Comet with you and Kelly Maroney.
Right.
She is such a doll, by the way. Kelly is.
She is. Have you interviewed Kelly?
I've been trying to. We've been trying. Her cheerleading outfit was given away or stolen or whatever. So all last year we've been trying to get together, and but she's just a dynamite personality. Did you guys feel like sisters during that shoot?
Yes. It was funny because when we auditioned for that, I auditioned with somebody else who was more my kind of coloring, and she auditioned as Sam with somebody else I don't know who, but when we got the job, we didn't know that we saw each other at that like final audition or whatever it was. And we didn't realize that we were cast together. So we were brought back to the studio to do this like photo session of the sisters and the dad and all this stuff. And we're like, oh, it's you. And the first scene that we did was in the house where I've come across the city, and I go to our house and I'm looking for her and I find her upstairs in the bathroom, and we have that whole scene in the kitchen. We didn't really know each other. And then after that day, it was like, okay, we got this. And she and I are still really good friends today too. We're every time I'm out in LA, pretty much we see each other. Same with Lance, which is a real testament to what it was like sort of on the set. You know what I mean? It was just both of them in a way were, especially The Last Starfighter, were sort of labors of love. I mean, truly, it was a small little film that, and what makes The Last Starfighter to me so different from these other sort of outer space movies is it's in real time. It's about characters that you can relate to in this kind of pivotal time in their life that we've all been through, and we can relate to, you know, where you're graduating from high school, now what?
Weekend at Bernie's is the other one that just so because people still quote it. It's part of our lexicon.
It is.
Andrew McCarthy was at the top of his form then, and you were great at comedy. You are great at comedy.
Thank you. I did read the script and I thought, ew, this is kind of creepy. That this is about a dead guy, you know. And that scene where he's being dragged behind the boat and banging into buoys and things like that, I thought, this is horrible. This isn't funny. Boy, did I not know what I was talking about, because that's one of the most iconic scenes in the movie. But it's one of these first kind of, that sort of genre of comedy, kind of, you know, I don't know. It's kind of college boy comedy to me.
Yeah, we call it frat house movies, and just a little on the other side of you know what.
I know.
It's almost bad taste, but you know it was so innocently done too, that it balances itself very well and holds up after all these years.
Yeah, people love that movie. They love it, and like you said, it's become a part of our lexicon. I mean, the last time I heard it quoted was in that series, "Murders in the Building." Do you know that one?
Murderers in the Building, Steve Martin, and
right. It's quoted in that thing. I mean, every once in a while, you'll, and people will send me little clips from shows where it's quoted. I remember in Friends, it was like, I don't know, they were having some game guessing what was Joey's favorite movie or something like that. And it was such and such, and Weekend at Bernie's. And it was, well, of course that would be your favorite movie. It's unbelievable how
I Met Your Mother referenced it in a plot.
Did
they? Yeah, he had a plan on how to pick up a girl, and it was his Weekend at Bernie's plot, you know, and it was just hilarious. But it's
and when Bernie was running for president, remember? Yeah. Bernie? Oh my gosh, talk about memes. All over Weekend at Bernie memes. Yeah.
I voted for Pat Paulson in the day, so there.
Oh, you did. Good for you. I remember when Pat was running for president. Good for you.
Yeah. I remember Mr. Merlin that you did a stint on. See?
I think that was my very first job in LA, was Mr. Merlin.
Is that where you got your SAG card?
Oh, you know what? So it was my very second. No, I got my SAG card on this movie called Beach Girls, where I was there one day, and I got my SAG card by saying, we're sitting around this fire on the beach, and some guy runs up onto the beach. He says, "Surf's up!" And I'm kissing some hunky guy, and I look up, I go, "Who cares?" And we go back to kissing. And that's how I got my SAG card.
Do you do a lot of conventions then all over?
I do. I don't do a ton of them. You know, a lot of them are either sci-fi or horror. And I kind of straddle the fringe of both of those with Last Starfighter and Night of the Comet. And frankly, I don't mind doing it. I haven't done one for a long time because of COVID. I'm supposed to do one in April in New Jersey and one in August, I think, in Chicago this year. But it's the first time in like several years that I've done them. But it is incredible. The first time I did one, it was like 2011 or 15 or something like that. I didn't know what they were, and I was very nervous, and I couldn't believe the fans and how gracious they were. And I just didn't know what to expect.
Well, there's a difference with you than other celebrities. You are not just loved, you are beloved, because you touch a bunch of people's lives in different things. You've made us laugh, you've made us cry.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's really what we do is for the audience. And if I can have that effect on the audience, then I feel like I'm grateful for that, and the audience, I mean, truly, the people that I've met that are fans of these movies are just so lovely.
Thank you so much, Catherine Mary Stewart. And I'm saying the whole name. Should I just call you Catherine Mary?
Yeah, you can call me Kathy if you want to.
Kathy, it is an honor and a pleasure again. And thank you so much for being part of Screen Chatter. And I laughed and I cried with you. So there.
Oh, thank you, Tony. It was a pleasure. It was really a pleasure. I hope I see you in Salt Lake City.
Yes, please see me in Salt Lake City.